What is up, guys? Broken Prophet here. Welcome back to the vlog. Here is hoping that the start of your work week is amazing and that you are blessed with an amazing week. Now, on this channel, you know we speak about traditional hoodoo only, and we produce beautifully edited cinematic masterpieces, which is what I had for you earlier today before I realized I recorded an entire video with zero audio. So unless you are adept at lip reading, you guys are not going to get that video. Instead, you're going to get this one. Hopefully it's just as good. Oh, I'm here. So the title of this video is probably going to change a million times, so I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but this video is going to give you my 5 favorite protection spells. Now, I decided to do this video, which I'm sure some of you remember. I think it was a couple of live streams ago that I was only on for 10 or 15 minutes because my nephew started crying. Well, I found out that he had had a nightmare. He's a little guy, just over a year, little guy. And I know some of you guys who are parents, you know, it's you know, you feel powerless because you're like, oh my gosh, like what has happened? How do I comfort you? How do I reassure you, especially when you're that young? How do I reassure you that what you saw wasn't real? And they're so scared and they're so frantic, and it's just, you know, what can you do, right? I'm going to give you guys workings to help to help your children through a bunch of different scenarios. Now, with that being said, these are workings that you can do not just for children, but for everyone. That's why I said the title may flip a few times, because you can also do it for your spouse, your parents, you know, your friends, neighbors, anyone you care about that you want to protect against certain things. With that being said, the focus of this video is not going to be on protections against spiritual attack, because you guys know how I feel about that. Yes, protections against spiritual attack are something that you should be familiar with, but you shouldn't be paranoid about it to a point it's like, oh my gosh, I need to do all this. No, simply because, factually speaking, we live in a world with 8 billion people on it. Out of those 8 billion people, only a few believe in what we believe in. And out of that few that believe in it, even less can actually pull it off. The only time you should need protections against spiritual attack, really, from what I've seen, is when y'all are out mucking around in these social media groups that are devoted to spirituality, and y'all get into it with somebody else, and then y'all start throwing half-tailed workings at each other. But for the most part, out here in the real world, we have far more physical, mundane scenarios to protect against, more so than spiritual attacks. I'll do a spiritual attack video later, but for right now, let's do some protections against this world we live in. Starting with number one. Number one is devoted to my nephew and anyone who suffers from nightmares or anxiety, because this will also work for anxiety, not just for children, but for adults as well. I suffer from nightmares as a child. You know, I guess you could say as a young child, you know, things were becoming active, you know, spiritually. And it was causing horrible nightmares, what they call night terrors. Now, I remember waking up and looking at little imp-like creatures swinging on the doorknob to my room like it was a freaking trapeze. And I was like, oh my God. And of course it freaked me out. And I would see other things, probably haints, cruising through. And I could just imagine now what it must have been like for my mother hearing me screaming from my bedroom, "Who are you? Who are you?" Because I would. God, I'm waking the whole house up. So Here's a protection that you can use for your child if they're having nightmares, but also for yourselves, for another adult who suffers from anxiety and overactive mind, because anxiety, overactive mind, stress, and worry can trigger nightmares. We know this. And one of my favorites for this is black mustard seed. Now, let me just stop. Any mustard seed, black or yellow. Black was what I had handy, and you know I always say, use what you have. I had black mustard seed handy. I don't have any for sale before y'all ask, but if you're interested, then message me, and then you can go to www.trueconjure.com. But to utilize this black mustard seed, you're gonna take a good size pinch, right? Because they're really small. So you're gonna take a good size pinch and sprinkle it around the bed and up under the bed if you can. And you're gonna pray the 23rd Psalm as you're doing so. And what will happen is when the child or when the adult goes to bed, the mind will cool and it'll help them to get a good night's sleep. Because, man, when your sleep is funky, everything is funky, right? Now, I know you guys love hearing the why. Now, there are a few schools of thought. Some people say that spirits or witches, oh man, I hate using New Age terms, but they say that they, for some reason, love to count. I don't know. And they say that by the time they count all the seeds that you've strewn, then the person will wake up and they will not have had time to bother them. I don't know about all that, but I do know that spiritually in Hoodoo, we use it to calm the energy, calm the spirit, to allow a good night's rest without nightmares. Now, if it is a case of a haint, and this is specifically for little kids, you guys know I love these cobalt blue bottles. Down here we call it haint blue. And you know, haints are just transient spirits that walk through and tend to cause mischief. It is said that haints like to prey on little kids. Through my experience, they aren't targeting little kids. It's just that little kids are more spiritually open and able to see them. And of course, if you're wandering through the spirit realm and there's someone that can actually see you, you're going to hang around. And of course, that bothers little kids. It will bother us too, right? I know it bothers me sometimes. So what you'll do is you'll take a blue bottle. Now, it does not have to be glass. It can be plastic. But you'll take a blue bottle and you'll sit it beside their bedroom door. And if you've got two, sit another one in their bedroom window. And that will keep any actual entities from being able to enter that child's room. And again, you can't, let me stop, because that was not specifically for adults, because you can use it as well for you if you do feel a spiritual or an encroachment from some type of entity, and you'll have a safe space, your bedroom. You can do it for your whole house to keep them away. All right. And then finally, with the black mustard seed, what I like to do is, because y'all have a hard time finding red brick dust. I don't know why, because there's a hardware store everywhere that sells red bricks. But you can also sprinkle the red brick, the black mustard seed or yellow mustard seed outside of your door for 3 days in a row, and it will put up a protection to keep evil away. All right, so that's number one, the mustard seed. All right, let's get into number two. Now, number two is an old staple, because if you've got, say, driving age kids, and you know what kind of worry that is, because kids getting behind the wheel, they just got their license and they're prone to being reckless. And you want them to not only be safe behind the wheel, but also you don't want them dinging up your car. And as for adults, fellas, you know how we feel when your lady comes and says, hey, let me have your keys. I want to run to the store. You like, you want me to drive you? Because, wait a minute, y'all can't drive. Let me stop for y'all counseling me, because I know some dudes who can't drive either. But the thing that I want to give you is this: the railroad nail. Some people call them railroad spikes. Railroad nails or railroad spikes placed up under the driver's seat will protect that car and keep it safe. And by keeping the car safe, then by proxy, it's keeping the occupants and the driver safe as well. So if you got some new driver out there, make sure that they don't leave the house without a railroad spike or nail under the driver's seat. And to activate it, all you do is take a little bit of holy water and you anoint the top 3 times, and then you anoint the bottom 3 times, and then you place it on the car seat, the driver's seat. Now, with that being said, you don't have to just leave it there. You can take it with you. So if you're taking an Uber, take that bad boy with you, put it up under the seat, because them Uber drivers, they are often distracted. That's the problem with driving nowadays. Everybody's driving distracted. They're either texting or they're adjusting their makeup, or, you know, fellas, we wanna make sure we right before we get to wherever we going. And we're paying attention to everything but the road. I know somebody who is notorious for texting, for checking emails, surfing Facebook. And I'm like, man, if you don't get off. Just get off of that. Shoot. So that is something you can do to protect your vehicle, and by proxy, protecting yourself, your loved one, the little one in the car seat, the old lady beside you, whomever, and get them back home safely. Number 2, the railroad nail. Now, number 3, we're sticking with that nail motif. Now this one works. Now this one does work specifically for children because they have to still be growing. If you've got a child who has like childhood ailments and like say asthma or bad allergies or something like that, one thing that we've always done down here hoodoo wise in the South is we will take a nail and we'll take that youngin' and we walk the youngin' outside to a strong and healthy tree. Now y'all Yankees, y'all northern folks, y'all may not see many trees. So let me tell you, you want one that the bark looks good. It's got a bunch of leaves. That way you know it's healthy, right? You know it's healthy, it's strong. And you're going to stand that child next to that tree and you are going to hammer that nail right at the child's height. You know how when kids are growing, you stand them up to the door jamb and you take the little pencil and you mark how tall they are or how tall they're growing, right? Well, it's the same principle. As that child grows past that nail, they will grow out of whatever ailment that is. You know, you've heard people say all the time, especially growing up, when you got, all the babies got allergies. Oh, don't worry, they'll grow out of it. Well, this is something that will actually help them to grow out of it. All right. Now, like I said, adults, we ain't growing no more unless we grow out. Or some of y'all grow back and go to the side. But so obviously we can't use that. But here's a working that will protect you from sickness and things like that. And that is to take an egg, cleanse yourself with the egg. What I mean by cleanse, wipe yourself down with the egg. Do I have an egg? I don't have an egg here. Here we're going to pretend this is an egg. And you're going to wipe yourself all the way down with it. Pretend you taking a whole bath with the egg. Go all the way down to your foots. And then take the egg, put it in one of your socks. All right. Hang it above your doorway or the doorway of your loved one's room, wherever. Leave it there for 3 days and then go throw it all into running water. By running water, I mean a stream, y'all. Not a pond, not a lake, not the ocean, not the sink, not a sewer, a stream. And as it is taken away, so is their ailment and condition. It is taken away. Okay, so there's another working that I know you guys are going to like and you're going to use. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is number 4 is I had to put this delicately. Number 4 is a protection against failure. Now, for school age kids, we know they take a lot of tests, and maybe they study and don't grasp it, or maybe they study and, well, maybe they don't study. You know how kids are sometimes. I know how I was sometimes. And especially when it came to memorizing poems, like I couldn't memorize that mess to save my life. I mean, I would read it, and it just go out somewhere. I don't know where it went, but it wasn't in here. So one thing that my grandma did for me was this, and this is something I've done for others. You take a candle, right? And you scratch your name into the candle, and you can do it 3 times. Just scratch it around the candle somewhere. And if you don't have a stick candle, then you can scratch your name into the top of a glass encased candle. That works just fine. And then what you do is you go and you find a picture of someone that you believe would ace that test. It can be Einstein, I don't care, but somebody would ace the test. Or it can be a picture of someone who's taken the test before you and done well. And then you take that picture, you burn it to ash, and then you take the ashes and you rub the ashes into the places that you have scratched your name. And then the night before, you got to take that test, or they've got to take that test. You set the candle into a candlestick holder, or if it's a glass encased candle, then you just sit it on their nightstand next to their bed, and then you light it. But as you light it, you say, I'm going to grant to you the wisdom of Solomon. Now, we know King Solomon was the wisest man in the Bible, but we're also going to grant them the wisdom of whoever took that test before they took it. All right. And that worked. And that helped me I would wake up and it's like, okay, oh, captain, my captain, whatever. But it would be in here now. For adults, well, we take tests also, but they call them interviews. Or maybe you've got an interview and they're going to ask you questions about the supervisory or whatever position that you are trying to get. And you didn't study that manual. Or maybe you're just a nervous interviewee. Do this working, and it will help protect you from failing, because who likes to fail at stuff? So that's number 4. Use it wisely. Number 5 is something that's a little bit more touchy, because y'all know the world we live in. Sometimes our loved ones leave home and they don't come back for a variety of reasons. I don't even watch the news anymore because it's so depressing, man. So number 5 is to bring them back home. Especially if you've got kids. They go out and play, they go to school, y'all know the news, and there's just times where they just don't walk back through that door. So one of the things is to take dirt from their footstep, mix it with some magnetic sand, okay? And then place it in a jar. It can be any kind of jar, glass, plastic, and keep that jar safe. And as long as that jar is safe, they will come back home. If you remember the movie Roots, when Kizzy was being taken away, Kunta Kinte grabbed some dirt from her footprint. This is old school hoodoo, but it came from Africa. And he took that dirt and said, she'll be back, she'll be back. And sure enough, Kizzy did eventually come back home. Make sure you do this. Bring your folks back home. And on a much lighter note, remember in that movie, I forgot what movie it was, I think it was Boomerang, when Halle Berry was like, love, she poked Eddie Murphy in the forehead. She was like, love should have brought you home last night. If you got somebody who who love should have brought home, do that work and it'll bring them home. And also, on a side note, hoodoo is a way of life. Never let anybody that you care about leave their shoes pointing outwards, meaning pointing at the walls. People will leave their shoes at the front door. Never let anybody leave their shoes pointing outwards. You always want to have their shoes pointing inwards, as if they're walking into the house. Never have them pointing out. That will drive someone away. Now, if you want to drive somebody away, because I've had plenty of house guests that take off their shoes, and I make sure, like, hey, in this house, this is how we turn our shoes. And they're like, what? No, that's how we turn our shoes in this house. But make sure if it's somebody that you want to come back or to be there, that the shoes are always turned in. Okay? Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, it was not the beautifully edited cinematic masterpiece that was the other video, but hopefully I made up for it kind of with this one. Also, we do still have some seats for this upcoming webinar on July the 19th at 7 p.m. We're going to talk about ancestor altars, how to build them, how to work them, all right, how to contact your ancestors. That is one of the cornerstones of Hoodoo, just like the Bible is, working with the ancestors. And I know some people get tripped up, so we're going to go into it in depth in this webinar. $10 via Cashapp or Venmo, $15 through my website, www.trueconjure.com. Just click the current webinar. Any method via Cash App, Venmo, or website, make sure to include your email address or phone number so that I know how to get the link for you, get the link to you. If you are not able to catch it live, because I get asked this question a lot, even though I've been doing webinars for a minute now. If you can't catch it live, no worries. It will be recorded and the replay will be sent to you. Okay? So, with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button, the thumbs up. And if you got any value at all, think about subscribing to the channel. It's free. And if you got even more value, then check these payment methods down here and run them donations, $1 or $2. It does definitely help. And guys, I shot this video with a new camera. Hopefully I got the audio this time. Y'all let me know what you think about it. And we'll go from there. And with that being said, profit out.